Hi, welcome to Healthy Home Cooking. It's fall in Southern California. It hardly feels like it, but the evenings are getting cooler and it's close enough. It's almost the middle of October, and you know what? It's time to start making all those fall foods that I just so enjoy. This is my favorite time of year, and the foods are so good. I mean, there are apples and pumpkins, cranberries, squashes, and all kinds of wonderful things available to us right now, and those are just some of my favorite foods. So I was recently in Vermont vacationing and had a wonderful time. If you ever have a chance, if you're a nature lover and want to drive through rolling hills of trees turning color, and one of my favorite things to do was to pull over while we were driving, and when I'd see like these little farm stands and pop in and just kind of see what was there. Of course, every farm stand was brimming with pumpkins, and you pick blueberries and apple places, and it was just so much fun. So one day, that's what we did. We pulled over and went apple picking. So I'm at Green Mountain Orchards in Vermont, and stopped at a You Pick apple farm, and these are my favorite apples, Honeycrisp. These are so delicious. They're sweet but yet still sour, a little bit of sour, but really crispy, just like the name implies, and these are delicious for munching on in the afternoon. So I'm going to be stopping next in a little town that's known for cheddar cheese, and that's going to be my snack this afternoon, is a nice big fat apple and some cheddar. So Honeycrisp apples are perhaps my favorite because they are both sweet and crispy, and just like their name, and they are well suited for a lot of things. I mean, the most important thing to do is to enjoy them raw, right? And Honeycrisps are delicious raw. And there are certainly other apples that you would use for baking, but Honeycrisps you can do both with. You can bake with them, and you can also eat them raw. Like if you were making applesauce, for instance, you wouldn't really necessarily need a crisp apple. You could do with one that kind of mushes down, right? Because that's the point, you're making applesauce. But anyway, I mean, no matter what variety you choose, apples are super nutritious. You know, I remember growing up and hearing the phrase, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. Well, you know what, that same sentiment is still true today. So no matter what variety of apple you choose, it's important to buy apples organically. Apples are heavily sprayed when they're growing, and then again sprayed right after harvest before they go out on market to prevent browning. And it's one of those fruits that has made the Environmental Working Group, I think it's ewg.org. I will put a link to that down below in the description, so scroll down and look for that. But the EWG puts out something annually called the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15. And what that is the Dirty Dozen is the top 12 fruits and vegetables that have the most pesticides on them, and apples are almost always at number 1 or 2 or 3. So check out that list. Then the Clean 15 are the 15 top fruits and vegetables that have the least amount of pesticides. So if you're on a budget and don't want to spend, you know, money on 100% organic fruits and vegetables, you don't necessarily need to. What you want to do is look at that list and make decisions based on which are the most toxic and or most heavily sprayed, let's say, versus those that are not. So anyway, good resource to check out. So make sure you buy your apples organically whenever possible. So in the fall, I like to take apples and combine them with another fruit that is very common at this time of year, and make what's called a fruit crisp. And a fruit crisp is basically like a pie, but without all that dough to fill you up and blow you out. So what I like to do is take like an apple, and I'll add in either some berries, or in this case today, I'm going to be making an apple and pear crisp. And then what you do is just sprinkle a little streusel topping on top, bake it in the oven for about 50 minutes, and you can make it more decadent by serving it with some ice cream on top or on the side, or like I will tonight, Put a little bit of whipped cream on top and enjoy just a really simple, low sugar dessert that is just perfect this time of year. I like to keep the sugar level low, so what I will do is add a little bit more cinnamon. Cinnamon tends to make whatever it's on taste sweeter. And so that's kind of a trick to keep in mind when you want to lower your sugar consumption, is to simply add cinnamon. And cinnamon is such a perfect spice to go with apples and pears, so it's ideal for making a fruit crisp that's low in sugar. All right, so this is what I'm going to be needing for my fruit crisp. I'm going to need my fruit, and I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to be using a Honeycrisp apple, and I'm also going to be using a Bartlett pear. And these are all fairly ripe and ready to go. So I'm going to be chopping these up. Then I'm also going to use the juice of half a lemon, and that is for two reasons. One is to keep the apples from turning brown, and the juice of the lemon also helps add just a little bit of acidity, which helps balance out the sweetness. I'm all about balance, and I think it's nice to add a little bit of acid. Again, it's super minor, so you're going to hardly even tell it's there, but it's going to be perfect when it balances with everything else. For spices, I'm going to add a little bit of ground ginger, and then of course a good dose of cinnamon, and then just a tad bit of nutmeg, and I also have some ground cloves. So these are going to be my spices. I'm going to add just a little bit of salt. Again, that's for balance. I'm going to add a few little drops, actually not even a half a teaspoon of vanilla extract, just for that extra little vanilla flavor. And then because the fruit does give off a little bit of liquid while it's cooking, I'm going to thicken that with a little bit of arrowroot powder. And that I'm going to just kind of coat over the fruit, and it's going to make nice thick sauce when it's cooking. And then of course I'm going to need a little bit of sugar. Now this is just a half a cup of sugar. Most crisp recipes I have found call for almost a cup, and I am not going to use that much. I think it's just too much sugar, and I'm going to let the fruit be my guide. So after I cut my fruit, I'm going to actually taste it and see how sweet it is, and I may even go with less than a half a cup of sugar if my fruit is fairly ripe and super sweet. Okay, so I would say it's tough to tell you how much sugar to use. If you're cutting back on sugar, use the minimal amount that you can get away with and still enjoy your crisp, but let the fruit be your guide. If it's not super sweet, you might need a little bit more sugar, but if it's really at its peak of ripeness and just bursting with sugar and sweetness, then you can really cut back on the sugar. And then for the topping, I'm going to just simply need 4 ingredients. I'm going to need some all-purpose flour. I have a combination here of regular cane sugar and some light brown sugar, and some salt and butter. I'm only going to need about 6 tablespoons or so of this, so I don't need the whole thing, but I am going to use some to coat the inside of my pan. To my apples now, I'm going to add just a little bit of vanilla extract, and I mean literally just a few drops, not a whole lot. We don't want to overpower this. And I'm going to sprinkle on a little bit of salt. I've measured out my spices, and I'm going to put those on next. I'm going to use a little bit of this arrowroot powder. Again, you can use cornstarch. That works as well, and I don't need a lot. And I definitely do not need a lot of sugar, and so this is a half a cup, which is what most recipes will call for, and I'm simply going to use about a quarter cup. That's it. And I'm going to give that a stir and just let the flavors kind of infuse the fruit while I assemble my topping. For the topping, it's really easy. I'm just going to be adding some sugar to my flour. Okay, and I'm going to just use my hands to break this up and mix this together. I'm going to add just a little bit of cinnamon again. I just want to provide that extra little help to make everything taste a little bit sweeter. And I'm going to mix that in with just a little bit of salt for the topping. and then the rest is the butter. Now I cut off some of this stick of butter and I've put it into my my pan, and what I'm going to do is just smear that butter around on the inside to keep it from sticking. And in the butter goes, and now the fun part. I just use my fingers to break this up and mix the butter into the flour and sugar combination and make little streusels, little balls of goodness. So really the best tool again is to use your hands and break up the butter into your flour and sugar mixture. There's really no better tool than your hands for this, because you can really get in there and lick off your fingers. Next, I'm going to just take the butter and distribute it in my pan, and this will just keep the fruit from sticking. Make sure you get up as high as you think you're going to be filling your pan, and if some chunks of butter remain, so be it. Next, we add our fruit. Take our streusel topping and sprinkle it all on top. Make sure you cover all your fruit. And you know what you can do is you can make kind of a double recipe of this streusel topping and then throw it in the freezer. And next time you want to make a crisp, you've already got your streusel topping made. That's kind of a quick way of going about it next time. I've preheated my oven to 350, and now I'm going to just put it in the oven. All right, so I've baked the crisp, taken it out of the oven. The topping is nice and crisp, and the fruit was nice and bubbly, and now I am going to give that a try. Oh, so the moment of truth. Can't wait to try my apple crisp with pears, cinnamon, nutmeg, cloves, and ginger, and I've got just a little bit of whipped cream on top. Like just a little bit. I don't sweeten my whipped cream except with a little bit of stevia, so there's no sugar in there, and so this is a pretty low sugar, highly flavorful dessert. Oh wow, that is good. The streusel topping adds just a great amount of crunch. The fruit is beautiful, and it all just works so very nicely together. So I hope you'll try this. It is a delicious dish to make for fall. Great to bring to work and share with coworkers, and great for a dinner party, you know, to make after a really nice dinner of maybe some squashes and maybe some pork loin or something like that. This would be so delicious following that. So I hope you enjoyed watching Apple Crisp, and will share this video with a friend. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, I hope you will do so, and click the little bell below to be notified when future videos are uploaded. And of course, hit the like button. Thanks for watching.